Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Let's chant one round of japa with Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. I want everyone to please chant. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare,
Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं मुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रीमद् भगवद गीता एज इट इज की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam for all session. Let's recite. Hare Krishna, Vindhyavani Mataji. Welcome. Thank you for joining.
And thanks for these people are calling. Yesterday, last night, I had a little bit tough night.
So
Thank you.
We will recite Bhagavad Gita as it is Shloka. This week we are all memorizing Bhagavad Gita 10:8. So we'll take turns. Does anyone need to go first? If you need to go first, please raise your hand. Okay, if not, we'll go in order. Mataji wants to go first. Vindhyavani Mataji, go ahead. Recite the verse and translation.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and our pranams. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattas sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam bodha bhava samamvita. Sorry. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Aditi Lata Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Okay. Saujanya Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Dasi.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matha sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Hare Krishna. So the idea is when everyone is reciting, please pay attention. By the end of everyone's recitation, you should know it by heart, both the shloka and the translation. Okay, so we'll go in order now. Achut Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Guru Maharaj, all glories to us in the places.
Dandavat
Happy to
Pranam.
have Devani Mataji. Hare Krishna. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Translation of Bhagavad by Muktadaranta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Thank you.
Thank you. Achintadev Prabhu and Arunita.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Aham sarvasya prabhavo
Aham sarvasya prabhavo
mattah sarvam pravartate
mattaha sarvam pravartate
iti matva bhajante mam
iti matva bhajante mam
buddha bhava samanvitah.
buddha bhava samanvitaha. Translation: I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Arunita?
It will recite a little later.
Okay. So next, Isha, Krishna Shish, Madhava.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Krishna Shish,
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Madhava,
Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate I'm the source of all spiritual material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me without their hands.
Rasapriya,
अहं सर्वस्य प्रभवो मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा भावा samannata. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
okay. Sonia Mataji,
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this, engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Okay, so next, Narsimha Leela Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Namaskar, all to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarva pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly knows this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all on their hearts. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
अहं सर्वस्य प्रभवो मतः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा भावा समन्विताः. Translation: I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me, and the wise who knows this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Thank you.
Spurti and Sudha not here, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So somebody joined just now. Pragna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know disengage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Did anyone not recite yet? Everyone has recited.
Arunita will read Mataji.
Yes, Arunita.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhutva samanvitaha.
Buddha Bhava.
Buddha bhava samanvitaha. Translation: I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. So I'll also recite Bhagavad Gita 10:8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Does anyone know it by heart? Would like to try without seeing? Who? Rasapra, you want to try? No.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, go ahead.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo
Matta sarvam
matta sarvam
pravartate
pravartate iti matva bhajante mam
Buddha
Bhava
Samanvita.
Samanvita.
Translation? You don't remember. Okay, that's okay. Jai Ganesh Prabhu, you'll also recite the verse, Prabhuji. I'll share the screen.
Srila Prabhupada.
Anvat Pranam Prabhuji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. 1 second, I'm trying to share the screen. Yes, Prabhuji. You know it by heart?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Aham sarvasya prabhu matta sarvam pravacate iti matva bhajate mam buddha bhava samanvitaha.
Translation, you know?
Translation of Srila Prabhupada.
I'm the source of all.
All spiritual and material world. The voice who know this,
Everything emanates from me.
Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Very nice, Prabhuji. Very nice. Thank you. Okay.
Mataji, I know the verse.
Okay, go ahead. I didn't know you were also here. Go ahead, Inia.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarva pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha.
Want to share the translation?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Yes.
Mataji,
Imba is there?
Mataji, I know only the verse, Mataji.
You know? Okay, go ahead without seeing.
Yes, Mataji. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha.
Very good. Yeah.
I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Yes. Mataji is there?
No.
Mataji.
She's not there. Okay. Suhrud and Spurti, you're here?
Yes, ma'am. Mataji, I memorized the verse, ma'am. Mataji.
Very good. Go ahead.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matya sarva pravartate iti matya bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha.
Very good. Translation. I'll share it.
I'm the source of everything, material and spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Suhrud is there?
No, Mataji.
No.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, so did everyone recite? I think everyone has recited. So we can begin Srimad Bhagavatam now. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4. We have been reading about the descendants of Vaivasvata Manu. The entire 9th canto is about the descendants of Vaivasvata Manu. So in this chapter, we are reading about the descendants of King Nabhaga. Nabhaga is the son of one of the sons of Vaivasvata Manu, and his son is Nabhaga. Nabhaga's son is, who is Nabhaga's son? Who? Who is Nabhaga's son?
Amrish Maharaj.
Ambarish Maharaj. Very good. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so we were reading. Actually, I think we read this verse yesterday, but when we read the translation, we'll catch up. So, Ambarish Maharaj, yes, we read that he ruled, so he was a pure devotee, first of all, how he engaged all his senses in the service of the Lord. And then we read that he ruled perfectly under the guidance of Vaishnava Brahmanas. And also yesterday we read how he performed yagyas like Ashwamedha Yagya. And by this there was water even in desert countries. And by that water there was rain. So when you perform yagya, there will be rains. And when there are rains, there is grains, there's food crops. And by that, all the population is sustained. So Ambarish Maharaj used to perform yagyas under the guidance of great personalities like Vashishta, Asita, and Gautama. And what to speak of ordinary places, even in desert countries, there was rain and there was food crops, and everyone was living in prosperity because of having a Vaishnava king like Ambarish Maharaj. Not only that, because he was a pure devotee himself. Pure devotee means what? Anya abhilashita shunyam. There is no desire save and except pleasing the Supreme Lord. So because Ambarish Maharaj was a pure devotee himself, he didn't have any desire for material opulence, for going to the heavenly planets. Naturally, all his subjects under his leadership were also like him. They were also pure devotees. Although they were carrying out their duties, like Ambarish Maharaj is carrying out his duties as a king, performing yagyas, so on and so forth, the citizens, the subjects were also doing their duties, and as a result of that, even if they got heavenly opulence or an opportunity to go to the heavens, they were least interested in those things. They had no attraction for any type of material opulence. And what type of material opulence? These are the opulences that even great demigods crave for. They become very insecure that they may lose their position of heavenly opulence. Such opulence, which even big demigods are not able to give up, the ordinary citizens of Ambarish Maharaj were able to easily give up. How? Because of being trained by a pure devotee like Ambarish Maharaj. That's what we read yesterday. The citizens of the state of Maharaj Ambarish, text 24, were accustomed to chanting and hearing. So where was their heart? Where was their attraction? It was in chanting and hearing about the glorious activities of the personality of Godhead. They never aspired to be elevated to the heavenly planets, which are extremely dear even to the demigods. So then the next verse. So I think I sent
Mataji, it's
so
my
Suvarnagi Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Go ahead. I'll read the Sanskrit. Samvardhayanti yat kamaha स्वराज्या परिभाविताः दुर्लभानापि सिद्धानां मुकुन्दं हृदि पश्यतः.
Translation. Those who are saturated with the transcendental happiness of rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead are uninterested even in the achievements of great mystics. For such achievements do not enhance the transcendental bliss felt by a devotee who always thinks of Krishna within the core of his heart. Mataji, I have a question, Mataji.
Okay.
So when Ambarish Maharaj was such a great king and he was taking care of his citizen, did it degrade over the time, Mataji? Why did everything change over time, like after Ambarish Maharaj?
After Ambarish Maharaj, so we always need a good leader. So certainly by the influence of time, things become degraded from Satya Yuga to Treta, Treta to Dwapar, Dwapar to Kali Yuga. Influence of time is certainly going to be there. In Kali Yuga, there will be influence, and then in Satya Yuga, things will be better. But just because it is Satya Yuga, it doesn't mean that they will all be pure devotees. Satya Yuga means they will be, yes, spiritually advanced. That means they will have Brahminical qualifications. But that does not automatically mean they will all be pure devotees. For someone to become a pure devotee, you need the association of a pure devotee. Ambarish Maharaj was such a pure devotee, and under his, just like when Srila Prabhupada was on the planet, there was that energy in the movement. It's not that it's not there now, but certainly those who were there at the time of Srila Prabhupada and they're still there today, if you ask them, they will say physical association, that is something else. Actually being there, direct association. So that energy is different. And then all we see it all the time, right? Whenever a great personality is there, then the vibrations are different. That it's like getting an electric shock
Yes.
of pure devotional service in that association. And then when they leave, gradually things start dwindling for lack of association. And again, once again, the Lord will send some great person like that.
Sure. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So, so here the translation says, those who are saturated with the transcendental happiness of rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's like when you get those who are experiencing the happiness of bhakti. What type of happiness? Actually, it's not happiness. Happiness is a material world. Sukha, dukkha, right? Happiness means sukha. Sukha is material. Here we are not talking about sukha. We are talking about ananda. Ananda means transcendental bliss. And nothing can be compared to the pleasure, the ananda, the bliss that is experienced by rendering devotional service to the Lord. That ananda cannot be compared to any other happiness, not even to the happiness experienced by getting ashta siddhis, right? Mystic yogis, they get siddhis. That is also happiness. But you cannot compare the ananda that one gets by rendering devotional service. So what is devotional service? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Right? So here the citizens are relishing hearing and chanting about the glorious activities, about the form, about the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are deriving so much pleasure in front of that Ananda, the happiness of heavenly planets, the happiness of getting some siddhis. It seems to be completely insignificant. It cannot compare. It cannot, that's why they don't get attracted. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinah rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. When you get a higher taste, then the lower tastes will seem insignificant. But as long as you don't get that higher taste, then you hanker for lower things, isn't it? Oh, so how devotees are able to give up intoxication, meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, to which they were addicted before. But after taking to Krishna consciousness, they were able to give it up and not even look back at it. How? Because they are getting such higher pleasure, transcendental pleasure in Krishna consciousness, these things will seem insignificant. Of course, you have to maintain yourself on that platform. If you take it too cheaply and if you don't take the practice seriously, then once again you'll come back to the material platform and maybe you'll get attracted to those material things again. That chance is there. So we shouldn't take it lightly that, oh, now I have conquered. No. As long as we have this material body, there is always a chance of fall down, always a chance. So always we have to be alert. How do we be alert? We have to take shelter of Krishna through bhakti, right? Hearing, chanting, following the do's and do nots, things that we have to refrain from. Be very fearful of those things, keep those things away. Things which are favorable for devotional service, we should seek out and we should try to do that. And then, of course, you will certainly experience that joy, that pleasure. And in front of that pleasure, material pleasures will seem to be very, very insignificant. Maybe in the past, you were going to parties and things like that. Now, after coming to Krishna consciousness, now you would want to go and attend programs in the temple, festivals in the temple. If somebody invites you to those parties, you'll be like, I don't want to go there. I don't know what to do when I go to those parties. You have lost the taste for those things. How? Because of getting a higher taste. So here also, the citizens of Ambarish Maharaj, about them it is said, those who are saturated, saturated means what? Completely filled up. There's nothing remaining, completely filled. They're saturated with the transcendental happiness. What is that happiness? Of rendering service to the personality of Godhead, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Are uninterested even in the achievements of great mystics. So, see, you have gradation. There is karmis, and then there is karma yogis. Then you have the jnanis. Then you have karma yogi means nishkama karma yogi. Then you have the jnanis, and then you have ashtanga yogis. So gradually, the pleasure experienced is higher. It's of a higher grade. Karmi's happiness is lesser compared to Nishkama Karma Yoga. That means they give up attachment to the fruits also, but still they are doing. But the Jnanis is superior to what the Nishkama Karma yogis are experiencing. And the Ashtanga yogis, they experience even higher. That is why here it is said that even the pleasure experienced by the mystic yogis seems to be insignificant to those devotees who are saturated with transcendental happiness experienced by rendering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means you are constantly engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Lord, and by that you are completely saturated with transcendental happiness. There is no room for any other type of happiness, whether karmis, jnanis, or mystic yogis. All that seems to be insignificant. You are experiencing the highest happiness. So, how can these things attract such devotees? They won't be attracted. That is why Ambarish Maharaj's citizens, they were not interested in going to Swarga and getting the opulences there. So, once again, the translation says, those who are saturated with the transcendental happiness of rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead are uninterested even in the achievements of great mystics. And then great mystics, the different siddhis that they get, they are not attracted to that. Then what to speak of other types of achievements? For such achievements do not enhance the transcendental bliss felt by a devotee who always thinks of Krishna within the core of his heart. So yes, sometimes you may say, okay, I'm doing some job, but I will also do some extra part-time job. I'll get some extra money. With that, I'll get some extra, uh, pleasure with that extra money. So let me do something more. Yes, I have my job, I'm happy, but I'll do a little bit more because that gives me more. Is it like that? That you're doing bhakti, you're happy and satisfied, but apart from that, I'll also go to Swarga and I'll check out little bit more happiness I'll get? No. You don't get anything extra from Swarga or from mystic yoga or from jnana. It cannot enhance the pleasure that you get by rendering devotional service. That cannot be enhanced by anything else. So therefore, they don't even look at these things. They are not interested. Those who are pure devotees, they are not attracted to jnana, karma, adi. Adi means others also will come. Jnana, karma, adi, anavritam. Their bhakti is not covered by jnana, karma, adi. Adi means mystic yoga and whatever else there is. Their bhakti is untouched by any of these things. Purely only bhakti. Bhakti means Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, and so on. This is pure bhakti. That is all they will do 24/7. And they get so much happiness by doing this, transcendental happiness. That happiness cannot be enhanced by jnana, karma, or anything else. Therefore, they don't look at these things. That's what this verse is saying. Let's read Srila Prabhupada's purport. So, these achievements do not enhance the transcendental bliss felt by a devotee who always thinks of Krishna within the core of his heart. Always. Pure devotee means always, 24/7. He's thinking about Krishna within the core of his heart. So he cannot get anything more from any other processes. Purport. So, who's supposed to read? Swarnangi Mataji read. Uh,
Oh, Priyanka Mataji was left out.
right. Nilambari Mataji was supposed to read, and then Priyanka Mataji. So they are not here today. Uh, so next will be. Sorry. Saujanya Mataji, right? Saujanya Mataji, I think.
It's me, right, Mataji?
Oh, Nilambari
Yes.
Mataji is here. Nilambari Mataji is here, and then Saujanya Mataji. Go ahead, Mataji. Nilambari Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada, from where to read? I just.
Yes, yes. Purport, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. You can start the purport.
Okay. A pure devotee is uninterested not only in not only in elevation to the higher planetary system, but even in the mm, even in the perfection of mystic yoga. Real perfection is devotional service. The happiness derived from merging in the impersonal Brahman and the happiness and the pleasure of the no I'm sorry and the happiness derived from the 8 perfection of mystic yoga, anima, laghima, prapti, and so on, do not give any pleasure to the devotee, as stated by Srila Prabhupada. uh,
Prabodhananda Saraswati.
I'm sorry. Prabodhananda Saraswati.
Yeah, I'll read that. Yeah, go ahead.
कैवल्यं नरकायते त्रिदशापुर अक्षम आकाश पुष्पायते दुर्द दुर्दन्ते sorry दुर्दन्ते त्रिया काल सर्प पाताली प्रोक्ता दंश्रायते विश्वान्पूर्णा सुखायते विधि महेन्द्रादेश च कितायते यत् करुणाया कटाक्ष वैभावभातां तन् गौरम एव संस्थुमः. Okay. When a devotee has achieved a position of rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, he thinks the impersonal Brahman to be no better than hell, and he regards material happiness in the heavenly planets to be like a will o' the wish. As far as the uh, of perfection of mystic powers is concerned, a devotee compares it to a venomous snake with no teeth. A mystic yogi is especially concerned with controlling the senses, but because the senses of a devotee are engaged in the service of the Lord, Rishikesha, Shevanam, Bhaktir, Uchate, there is no need for separate control of the senses. For those who are materially engaged, control of the senses is required, but a devotees' senses are all engaged in the service of the Lord, which means that they are already controlled. Param Drishtva Nivartate. Bhagavad Gita 2.59. A devotee's senses are not attracted by material enjoyment, and even though the material world is full of misery, the devotee considers this material world to be also spiritual because everything is engaged in the service of the Lord. The difference between the spiritual world and the material world is the mentality of service. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchate. When there is no mentality of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's activities are material.
Yes,
Should I
Mataji.
go with
Thank you.
this?
No,
Uh,
Mataji. Next person will read.
okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Mataji. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So after Nilambari Mataji, Saujanya Mataji. Go ahead, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Prapachitaya.
प्रापञ्चिकतया बुद्धया हरिसम्बन्धी वस्तुना मुमुक्षुभिः परित्यागो वैराग्यं कथ्यते. That is Bhakti Rasamrita 1.2.256. That which is engaged in the service of that which is engaged in the service of the Lord is not material, and nothing thus engaged should be given up. In the construction of a high skyscraper and the construction of a temple, there may be the same enthusiasm, but the endeavors are different. For one is material and the other is spiritual. Spiritual activities should not be confused with material activities and given up. Nothing connected with Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is material. A devotee who considers all this is always situated in spiritual activities, and therefore he is no longer attracted by the material activities. Param drishtva nivartate.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So the point is, those who are completely Krishna conscious, or those who are deriving happiness, transcendental happiness, by constantly experiencing Krishna in the core of their heart. For them, there is no attraction whatsoever from this world, even up to the point of achievements of mystic yoga. Then what to speak of merging into Brahman or getting some material achievements? They are not attracted to these things. That's the point. So Srila Prabhupada is quoting Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati's shloka from Chaitanya Chandramrita. So when a devotee has achieved the position of rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, then what is his mentality? What does he think about impersonal Brahman realization? What does he think about going to heavenly planets? What does he think about getting some mystic perfections? This is Prabodhananda Saraswati's Chaitanya Chandramrita, verse 5. So, and how did this devotee get this position of pure devotional service? By the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What does such a devotee think about merging into Brahman? He thinks impersonal Brahman is no better than hell. This devotee thinks that impersonal liberation is no better than hell, because he is experiencing such pleasure in reciprocation from the Lord in his devotional service. Then why would he, if he is experiencing so much pleasure, why would he want to give up that position? Because what happens in impersonal realization? Impersonal realization or merging with Brahman means there's no identity, there's no two, only one. You lose your identity. You just go and merge into that Brahman. So when there is no two people, how can there be any interaction and how can there be reciprocation? It's all one. I am just that one. So for this devotee, this type of impersonal liberation is no better than hell. He'd rather go to hell than go and merge into Brahman. So that's his understanding of impersonal realization. Then what does he think about going to heavenly planets? He regards material happiness in the heavenly planets to be like a will-o'-the-wisp. Will-o'-the-wisp means Akasha Pushpa. You have heard Akasha Pushpa? Akasha Pushpa means flower in the sky. Do we ever see flowers growing in the sky? We don't see. Flowers come on plants, on creepers, on trees. You don't see flowers blossoming in the sky. So if somebody told you, oh, you go to this place, there you will see flowers coming in the sky, will you go? No, because you know it doesn't happen. This is just an imagination. It's like a fairy tale which doesn't exist. It's just an imagination. So for this devotee, who by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is able to engage in pure devotional service, if somebody told him, you can go to heavenly planets, there you can go to Nandana gardens and enjoy with Apsarasas and it's so nice, he will think that happiness doesn't even exist. Just like the flower in the sky does not exist, happiness in heavens does not exist. It's like Srila Prabhupada gives this example of, let's say, they actually do this. Somebody is, he is punished to be hanged. So let's say he got capital punishment, the next day morning he is supposed to be hanged. Just the night before, they will send him a beautiful lady that you can enjoy with her now because anyway you're going to die tomorrow. Will he be able to enjoy? He knows he's going to die the next day. What enjoyment he will get? It's like that. You go to heaven and you will enjoy. Any person who has some sense will understand how long is this enjoyment going to last. After this again I have to come here and I have to suffer and I have to go to hell. What is the meaning of this happiness? So therefore such happiness of heavenly planets is compared to will-o'-the-wisp. Will-o'-the-wisp means literally Akasha Pushpa, flower in the sky. Phantasmagoria, something that does not exist. That is why in Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says that those who are foolish, those who are less intelligent, they are attracted to all these, the Vedas are offering so many different, uh, pleasures by following the different karmas. Who are attracted to these things? Foolish people are attracted. Intelligent people don't get attracted. Devotees are the most intelligent. So therefore, Sri Prabodhananda Saraswati is saying, devotees, when you tell them about material happiness in the heavenly planets, they will think that is will-o'-the-wisp. That happiness doesn't even exist. It's just an imagination. Okay? So what is merging into Brahman? It is worse than hell. What is happiness in heavenly planets? It is will-o'-the-wisp. Doesn't even exist. And then what do they think? What do devotees think about mystic perfections? Right? You can read another person's mind. You can become invisible. Nobody will be able to see you. And even up to the point of you can create your own planet by your mystic siddhi. What does a devotee think about these mystic siddhis? As far as the perfection of mystic powers is concerned, a devotee compares it to a venomous snake with no teeth. A mystic yogi is especially concerned with controlling the senses, but because the senses of a devotee are engaged in the service of the Lord, there is no need for separate control of the senses. Yes. So, again, mystic yoga, what is the mystic yoga system? It begins with mystic yoga. You have to start with controlling yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara. Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. This is your mystic yoga process. Begins with Yama, Niyama. What is this Yama, Niyama? You have to control your senses and you have to control your mind by sitting. You control your breath, your sitting postures. Control, control, control. It's all about controlling. And then hold your senses tightly controlled. Don't let them. And the senses are like serpents, venomous serpents. At the first opportunity, they want to strike you. Snakes are like that, right? For no reason, they want to just bite you. So senses are like that. The eyes want to see beautiful things. The tongue wants to eat so many things. The ears want to hear, right? Sweet sounds, music. The skin wants to touch soft things. The senses are always waiting to go and contact the sense objects. So they are like venomous serpents. Controlling these senses, it's not an easy task. It's very difficult. Very difficult. So to practice mystic yoga system and then to get perfection in that system and then to get those siddhis, how difficult it is. But for a devotee, what does he think about these siddhis and what does he think about the process of controlling? He thinks, yes, the senses are like serpents, but the senses of a devotee are like the serpents whose poisonous teeth are broken. What is the fear of a snake whose poisonous teeth are broken? What can such a snake do? Even a child can go and play with that snake because it is harmless now, it cannot do anything. So devotees, they don't fear. How they are able to control their senses? How their senses have become like serpents with broken teeth? By engaging the senses in the service of the master of the senses. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. What is bhakti? Bhakti means engaging your senses in the service of the master of the senses. That is bhakti. सर्वोपाधि विनिर्मुक्तं तत्परत्वेन निर्मलं ऋषिकेन ऋषिकेश सेवनं भक्तिरुच्यते. We have अन्याभिलाषिता शून्यं ज्ञानकर्माद्यनावृतम् आनुकूल्येन कृष्णानुशीलनं भक्तिरुत्तमा. This is Rupa Goswami's definition. Rupa Goswami's definition is based on this verse taken from, I think this is from Narad Pancharatra, right? Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. So bhakti means engaging the senses in the service of the master of the senses. And when you do that, your senses are not venomous serpents anymore. They are automatically controlled. But otherwise, when you want to control your senses separately by your endeavor, oh, it is such a struggle. It is such a struggle. The path which is adopted by the Ashtanga yogis, Jnanis, they take to this path. But a devotee thinks they have no fear because they have engaged the senses in the service of the Lord. The mystic yoga system, they think they're not attracted to that process and they're not fearful also because our senses are already controlled. We don't need to follow that path to control our senses like that. So the whole point is devotee is not attracted to any of these processes. Why he is not attracted? Because he is enjoying the highest pleasure through bhakti already. The devotee's senses are not attracted by material enjoyment. Yes. Actually, material world means we should be fearful, isn't it? But for a devotee, there is no fear of material world because even though he is in this material world, he is always in the spiritual world. Because his concern is only being engaged in the service of the Lord. We were reading this about Ambarish Maharaj. Whether you put him in heaven or you put him in hell, his only concern is devotional service to the Lord. He is not concerned with the place, with the facility. So for him, there is no material world. And no, he cannot stay even for a single moment without rendering devotional service to the Lord. So he is always in the spiritual world. He is always in the spiritual world. So again, प्रापंचिकतया बुद्ध्या हरिसंबंधी वस्तुनः हरिसंबंधी वसनः मुमुक्षुभिः परित्यागो वैराग्यम फल्गु katyate. So one more important point here, Srila Prabhupada is saying, those things which can be used in the service of the Lord, if you think it is material and you give it up, that type of renunciation is Falgu Vairagya. That is Falgu Vairagya. For example, some people say money is Maya. I don't want to touch money. I am a sadhu and I don't want to touch money because money is Maya. Isn't it? But if that money can be used, if you see money as Lakshmi, and Lakshmi should be served, should be used in the service of Narayan. She is the servant of Narayan. And if you just use that in the service of the Lord, that is proper consciousness than the person who says, oh, this is Maya, I shouldn't touch it. That consciousness is, that type of renunciation is called Falgu Vairagya. What is Falgu Vairagya? You know, Falgu Vairagya means sometimes you see that externally it looks like a dry bed, right? River bed, water is dried up, it looks like dry, but underneath that there's water. Or is it the other way around? You see, like there is some water, but actually it is shallow water. I think that's what it is. If anyone remembers, please tell me. This is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion. Falgu. What is Falgu Vairagya? Falgu Vairagya means it looks like, externally it looks like Vairagya, but actually it is not Vairagya. So this looks like a river externally, but actually it's very shallow. You don't get any benefit from such river. So you renounce things thinking that this is material. This is Maya, right? I won't touch. But higher than that renunciation is, you see, Srila Prabhupada often gives the example of the microphone. Someone may say, this microphone is material. I won't use it. I won't touch it. Srila Prabhupada said, if this microphone can be used to propagate Bhagavatam, to propagate the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, why not? Use it in Krishna's service. That's the mode. Even Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was a sannyasi and they would criticize him. A sannyasi, sadhu, he should not be using modern conveyances, cars, and he maintained a very nice, costly car for preaching purposes. He would go traveling to places for preaching purposes. He would go in cars. Why? And if devotees would use that car simply for running errands to get some medicines or whatever, he would say no. This is meant only for preaching purpose. This is meant for propagating Krishna consciousness, not for other things. So you see, so this renunciation, someone else is saying, no, we won't use, these are costly things and these are material things, we don't touch material things. What is Srila Prabhupada saying here? It is all in your consciousness. If your consciousness is, I am a servant and this has to be used in the service of the Lord, then there is nothing material for you. Whatever you see, you use it in the service of the Lord, and for your own sense gratification, you won't touch anything. Then your consciousness is perfect consciousness. On the contrary, you say this is material, that is material, but I still maintain my sense gratification, right? So many stories are there, like, the brahmacharis of Ramanujacharya. That's one story, right? So they would fight for copins. Some rats had, eaten their copins or something, and they started fighting with each other. They have renounced everything. They don't have any asset. They just have their little small pieces of copins, but they're attached to that. And here is another Grihastha, Dhanurdhar, disciple of Ramanujacharya. And him and his wife, she had so many gold ornaments, and just they used to think he's so materialistic, he lives with a wife, sense gratifier, we are all renunciates, we are brahmacharis. And so Ramanujacharya wanted to teach his disciples a lesson. So what did he do? He said, I will send Dhanurdhar out of town on some business, So when his wife is alone, you go and steal all the ornaments. And then you wait and see what happens. So the brahmacharis go. And when Dhanurdhar is not there, she's sleeping. And they start taking away all the jewelry on one side of her body. Her one earring and nose ring and her bangles and rings and so on and so forth. And then she's thinking, oh, that they must be really in need of money. So let me turn the other side so they can take from the other side also. But as soon as she moved to turn to the other side, they got scared and they ran away. And then they went back and told Ramanujacharya what happened. He said, okay, now go back. Dhanurdhar is going to return and see what they're talking, husband and wife. So obviously, so so they went back and they're watching through the window what's going on. And there, the husband came back and then she's telling her husband, looks like our Gurudev, in the ashram, they're in need of money. Looks like the brahmacharis had come and they were taking my jewelry. Oh, then what happened? I wanted them to take from the other side also, so I moved. And I thought so that they can take from the other side. They got scared and they went, you foolish woman, why did you move? If you had not moved, they would have taken. Like that. He was chastising her. And then these brahmacharis were listening to the whole thing. They went back and they told Ramanujacharya. So he said, now you tell me, who is more renounced? That grihastha who has a wife and all gold and everything, he has no attachment. Neither him nor his wife, they have no attachment for the things. And you are renounced. You have given up the whole world, everything. But you're so attached to your copins, you're fighting with each other. Who is renounced? So, renunciation is a quality of your consciousness. What is that consciousness? The consciousness is, I am a servant, I am not the enjoyer. I am not the enjoyer. The Lord is the enjoyer. With that consciousness, you can use the whole world, because even if you are given the whole world, you won't use even one farthing for your sense gratification. Rather, you will use everything in the service of the Lord, understanding who is the proprietor, who is the enjoyer, and what is my position. So that is a pure devotee. Ambarish Maharaj is a pure devotee. Ambarish Maharaj had the whole Bhumandala under him. But he didn't consider it of any value. He didn't think it was for his enjoyment at all. This is called real renunciation. So the last paragraph of this purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining Prapanchikataya buddhya harisambandhi vastunaha. Harisambandhi vastunaha. That vastu which is Hari Sambandhi, which is related to Hari, that means which can be used in Hari's service. If you think this is material and you give it up, then that type of renunciation is Falgu Vairagya. Falgu Vairagya. It's not real renunciation, false renunciation. So in the purport, what is Srila Prabhupada saying? That which is engaged in the service of the Lord is not material. And nothing thus engaged should be given up. In the construction of a high skyscraper and the construction of a temple, there may be the same enthusiasm, but the endeavors are different. Why? The consciousness is different, right? One who is building a skyscraper, he is thinking how much I'm going to profit from this skyscraper, how I'm going to enjoy. And one who is building the temple, he is probably thinking, oh, my Lord will come. This is a wonderful temple for the Lord, and all the devotees can come here, gather and worship the Lord. This is going to be such a wonderful facility for glorifying the Supreme Lord. Both are building, but see the gulf of difference in the consciousness. Spiritual activities should not be confused with material activities and given up. Nothing connected with Hari is material. A devotee who considers all this is always situated in spiritual activities, and therefore he is no longer attracted by material activities. So you put him in any situation in this material world or anywhere else, he is always thinking of how to serve the Supreme Lord. He is always thinking of how to serve the Supreme. So for him, there is no material world. That's the whole point. There is no material world for such a person. So, so there's no question of getting attracted, because he's not seeing himself as an enjoyer. So he's not attracted by any opulences, any position, any achievements, siddhis, liberation, nothing. None of these things are attractive to a devotee, because his interest is only how to please the Supreme Lord, how the Lord may be served. So under all circumstances, wherever he may be, in whichever position he may be, he will be. We were reading Leelamrita yesterday, Srila Prabhupada. One failure after another. What did Mrs. Nagarajan say? She said that, in one moment, like everything is failure, but immediately he sits down and he starts writing something, because there's no question of becoming despondent. No, whatever facility I have, let me use it in serving Krishna. Results are anyway coming from him only. I don't have control on the results. Who will help me, who will not help me? But whatever energy I have, let me use it in Krishna's service. Success, failure does not matter. Success is if I use my every moment, every drop of energy in Krishna's service. That is success. And actual physical success, in terms of material success or not, how many people are taking to it or not, that is in Krishna's hands. This is a pure devotee. This is the consciousness of a pure devotee. At least we can recognize, right, who is a pure devotee from these descriptions. So we will stop Srimad Bhagavatam reading here. Saujanya Mataji read. So Pragnya will read tomorrow. And then after Pragnya, if Vindhyavali Mataji is there, Vindhyavali Mataji will read. If not, Achut Priya Mataji. Okay? So first Pragnya will read, and then Vindhyavali Mataji, then Achut Priya Mataji. So now let's read Bhagavad Gita. We did 18, 70 and 71 yesterday. We'll read 72. We are coming to the end of Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter. Okay, please repeat. Kachid etat shrutam partha tvayaiकाग्रेण चेतसा कच्चिद अज्ञान सम्मोहा कच्चिद अज्ञान सम्मोहः प्रणष्टस्ते धनंजय प्रणष्टस्ते धनंजय. O son of Pritha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? So Krishna is saying, did you hear attentively to what I have said? All your doubts are cleared or not? Like a teacher, right? The teacher answers the questions and explains everything, and finally the teacher is saying, you still have any doubts? First of all, did you hear attentively? And after hearing, are all your doubts removed? Are all your illusions dispelled? Like that, purport. The Lord was acting as the spiritual master of Arjun. Therefore, it was his duty to inquire from Arjun whether he understood the whole Bhagavad Gita in its proper perspective. If not, the Lord was ready to re-explain any point or the whole Bhagavad Gita if so required. So this is a good teacher. A good teacher. Krishna is setting the example. A good teacher is he who first of all explains the subject matter thoroughly, and then if any point is not clear, the teacher is ready to re-explain that point, and if required, to explain the whole thing once again. So that was Krishna's mood when he spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Actually, anyone who hears Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna or his representative will find that all ignorance is dispelled. Of course, Bhagavad Gita is transcendental sound vibration, but also you have to hear from a devotee, right? You have to hear from a devotee. Then it will have its effect. Yeah. So And Krishna also said this Bhagavad Gita should only be spoken to devotees, amongst devotees, like that. So here Srila Prabhupada is saying anyone who hears this Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna or his representative will find that all his ignorance is dispelled. Bhagavad Gita is not an ordinary book written by a poet or fiction writer. It is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any person fortunate enough to hear these teachings from Krishna or from his bona fide spiritual representative is sure to become a liberated person and get out of the darkness of ignorance. So, if you remember yesterday's verse, even if somebody is not trying to be a devotee, a pure devotee, but he just comes and listens to Bhagavad Gita in the class, he just sits down with faith and without envy, he listens to the verses. He becomes free from sinful reactions. He goes to Dhruva Loka, we said. Now, what to speak of if somebody is very diligently studying Bhagavad Gita under a bona fide spiritual master coming in disciplic succession from Krishna? If simply hearing like that he is going to Dhruva Loka, if somebody is going to hear very attentively studying under a bona fide spiritual master coming in disciplic succession, what result will he get? What result will he get? All his doubts and illusions will be dispelled. And he will make progress in his spiritual life, not just, materially going to some higher pious place. No. He'll become a liberated person. He's sure to become a liberated person. If you study Bhagavad Gita under a bona fide spiritual master, you're sure to become a liberated person and get out of the darkness of ignorance. Like Krishna asked Arjun here, is your ignorance dispelled? Because it is expected that if you hear like Arjun heard from Krishna, then certainly his ignorance must be dispelled. So Krishna is also asking Arjun, is your ignorance dispelled? Like that. So we'll read Srila Prabhupada's Leela Amrita also. Continuation. Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada is still in Bombay. Formerly there was, also we read yesterday that Mrs. Sumati Morarji asked Srila Prabhupada if he could come every evening and discuss from Srimad Bhagavatam, read Srimad Bhagavatam to her and discuss for 15 minutes. So she would send a car to Srila Prabhupada's apartment and the car would bring him to her garden, and there in the evening for about 15 minutes every day they would have Bhagavatam discussion. So Srila Prabhupada is saying here, formerly there was no restriction for going outside, but for a sannyasi, outside means outside the country. But for a sannyasi like me, I had so much difficulty obtaining the government permission to go out. That means if somebody wanted to travel internationally, they didn't have any restriction earlier. But for a sannyasi, there was restriction because sannyasis are not supposed to cross the ocean and so on and so forth. So in India, they wouldn't give, it was very difficult for a sannyasi to get permission to go abroad. For a sannyasi like me, I had so much difficulty obtaining the government permission to go out. I had applied for the P form sanction, but no sanction was coming. Then I went to the State Bank of India. The officer was Mr. Martarchari. He told me, Swamiji, you are sponsored by a private man, right? Gopal Agarwal in Butler, Pennsylvania. So you are sponsored by a private man. So we cannot accept. If you were invited by some institution, then we could consider. But you are invited by a private man for 1 month. And after 1 month, if you are in difficulty, there will be so many obstacles. But I had already prepared everything to go. So I said, what have you done? He said, I have decided not to sanction your P form. I said, no, don't do this. You better send me to your superior. It should not be like that. That means this officer said, I have decided that we won't give you permission because you're sponsored by some private man for 1 month, so we cannot give you permission. And just see how much he had to struggle. So Srila Prabhupada, no, don't do that, with so much difficulty, right? He got the ticket from Sumati Morarji and he got a sponsor from there, and now the government is not giving him permission to go. So he said, please arrange for some superior. Let me talk with your superior. You cannot just stop like this at this point. I have everything ready. So he took my request. Prabhupada is saying, he took my request and he sent the file to the chief official of foreign exchange, something like that. So he was, the supreme man in the State Bank of India. I went to see him. I asked his secretary, do you have such and such a file? You kindly put it to Mr. Rao. I want to see him. So the secretary agreed and he put the file and he put my name down to see him. I was waiting. So Mr. Rao came personally. He said, Swamiji, I passed your case. Don't worry. So he agreed. Following Mrs. Morarji's instruction, her secretary, Mr. Choksi, made final arrangements for Bhaktivedanta Swami. Since he had no warm clothes, Mr. Choksi took him to buy a wool jacket and other woolen clothes. Mr. Choksi spent about 250 rupees on new clothes, including some new dhotis. At Bhaktivedanta Swami's request, Mr. Choksi printed 500 copies of a small pamphlet containing the 8 verses written by Lord Chaitanya and an advertisement for Srimad Bhagavatam in the context of an advertisement for the Skindia Steamship Company. So it was advertising the steamship company, Skindia Shipping Company. In that, Srila Prabhupada put his advertisement of Srimad Bhagavatam. Mr. Choksi, I asked him, why couldn't you go earlier? Why do you want to go now to the States at this age? He replied that I will be able to do something good, I'm sure. Right? So the question was, why didn't you go earlier? Why you're going now? Prabhupada is saying, I'm sure I'll be able to do something good. Right? It's never too late. I'm sure I can do something good. His idea was that someone should be there who would be able to go near people who are lost in life and teach them and tell them what the correct thing is. I asked him so many times, why do you want to go to the States? Why don't you start something in Bombay or Delhi or Vrindavan? I was teasing him also. You are interested in seeing the States, therefore you want to go. All Swamijis want to go to the States and you want to enjoy there. He said, what I have got to see, I have finished my life. But sometimes he was hot tempered. He used to get angry at me for the delays. What is this nonsense? He would say. Then I would understand he's getting angry now. Sometimes he would say, oh, Mrs. Morarji has still not signed this paper. She says, come back tomorrow. We will talk tomorrow. What is this? Why this daily going back? He would get angry. Then I would say, you can sit here. But he would say, how long do I have to sit? He would become impatient. So we'll stop there. So these are the last days, final days before Srila Prabhupada actually left on the Jaladuta to come to America. So
Thank you, Mataji.
thank you. Hare Krishna. All of you have a wonderful day in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.